Khudamul Ahmadiyya Zindabad. We are the soldiers of Islam. We live to protect Islam. Khudam Zindabad. Khudam Zindabad.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على المبعوث رحمة للعالمين حبيبنا وسيدنا وشفيعنا مولانا محمد بن عبد الله وعلى أهله وأصحابه وعلى جميع المسلمين والمسلمات في أنحاء العالم كلها إلى يوم الحساب. أما بعد فأحييكم إخوة الإيمان بتحية الإسلام قائلا السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. It pleases me so much to stand before you today at this material time to discuss a very important topic that affects the contemporary Muslim world, and that topic is none other than Khilafat, the missing link in the Muslim world. To start with, we praise Allah, we extol His loftiness, we submit to His grandeur, and we pray that He should grant us an ample lease of life to be spent in His cause, so that at the end of our sojourn on planet Earth, we would have garnered so much reward that will earn us a place in His lofty gardens of eternity. Amen. We also beseech Him to shower endlessly His choicest blessings on the noblest of mankind, the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, whose matchless spiritual allure, whose personal moral rectitude and sublime excellencies have always won for him showers of fond admiration and the torrential rain of encomium, even in the ranks of non-Muslim writers and critics. One of such being Saint Louis Alphonse Marie de Prat de Lamartine, the famous French aristocrat and polyglot, who said, and I quote, "Philosopher, orator, apostle, legislator, warrior, conqueror, restorer of rational dogmas, founder of 21 terrestrial empires, but of one spiritual community, that is Muhammad." On this note, with the kind permission of the Sadar Sahib, I want to most humbly appeal to stand on the existing protocols. Brothers, I have been asked to touch upon a very important topic, and that which is actually all-inclusive. Unfortunately, our time is fast spent, and our brothers, the truth be told, must be tired, their nerves must be jaded, and what they crave for now is some hours of sound rest. Therefore, this discourse will not actually take much of our time. I beg to be very brief, considering our plight and the tiredness we are faced with. Today, the contemporary Muslim world is plagued with a myriad of crises, cutting across all vistas of human endeavors. It is indeed a case of absolute pandemonium and utter confusion. There is, within the fold of Islam, a whole lot of problems. These challenges can be broadly divided into two. We have internal challenges bedeviling the Islamic Ummah on a global level. We also have external challenges beleaguering the Muslim community on a global scale. When you talk about the internal challenges, we have crises like Hajrul Quran, that is neglecting the dictates of the Quran or giving theocentric superiority to any other source or sources of Islamic Sharia above the Quran. Allah the Almighty succinctly describes this pitiable and abysmal situation in the Holy Quran. Quran chapter 25 verse 31. Allah the Almighty says, وَقَالَ الرَّسُولُ يَا رَبِّ إِنَّ قَوْمِ اتَّخَذُوا هَذَا الْقُرْآنَ مَهْجُورًا. The prophet would cry at that point in time, "Oh Allah, my community now consider the Quran to be a thing in suspension. The Quran is still with us, but unfortunately, the prophecies of the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, with respect to the negligence on the part of the Muslims, with respect to the teachings of the Holy Quran, have come to play, have come to fulfillment in all sense of the actual weddings of the Prophet. The Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in one of his numerous prophecies regarding the end time, is quoted to have said that yakunu fihi qawmun yusallun, that there will be a group of people within them, yakunu fihim qawmun yusallun wa yasummun, they will pray, they will observe prayers, they will fast in the month of Ramadan, they will perform Hajj, wa yaqra'una al-Quran, they will also read and recite the Quran in the best of melodious voices, wala tujawizu hanajirahum, but the recitation, the reading, will not translate into a state of moral rectitude in their characteristics. It will not actually exhibit a better version of them. وَلَا تُجَاوِزُ حَنَاجِرَهُمْ أَقْوَالُهُمْ أَحْلَى مِنَ الْعَسَلِ. Their utterances will be sweeter than the taste of pure honey. وَأَفْعَالُهُمْ أَنْتَنُ مِنْ رَائِعَةِ الْبَصَلِ. But their actions shall be more obnoxious than the foul stench oozing out of a spoiled onion. Look at that description. That description should evoke a sense of deep introspection in every discerning Muslim. The Prophet ﷺ has given a very critical example of what is battling the Islamic Ummah in this present age. So one of the crises bedeviling the Islamic Ummah is negligence of the Quran. Of course, we read the Quran, we memorize it, but we have failed practically to imbibe the teachings of the Quran into our personal lives. And thus, the Islamic world is in a sorry state. The reason for this chaotic situation bedeviling the Islamic Ummah is chiefly due to the negligence of the teachings of the Holy Quran on the part of the Muslims. One other challenge that is very grave and that is internal, that is attacking the innermost core of the Islamic existentialism is sectarianism and sectarian enmity. Al-firqiyya wal-asabiyya summa adawatu al-firqiyya. Sectarianism, that is one. Sectarian enmity resulting from ideological differences, unresolved ideological differences. Today, we have so many sects in Islam. The promised Messiah, alayhi salatu salam, Hazrat Imam Mahdi alayhi salam, in Fiqh al-Masih, page 23, while describing the pitiable situation of the Muslims in the later days. This is contained in Fiqh al-Masih, page 23. He says, "Iftaraqatil ummah." The Muslim community is irresolvably divided. Watashajaratil millah. And the path of the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is perpetually in controversy. Faminhum hanbaliyun. There are some of them who claim that we are Hanabilas. We follow Al-Imam Ahmad bin Hanbali in his juristic explanations of Islam. Wa Shafi'iyun. There are some others who say we are Shafi'is. Wa Malikiyun. We have other Muslims who claim we are Malikis. Wa Hanafiyun. Some other ones claim that they are followers of Al-Imam Nu'man bin Sabit, popularly known as Al-Imam Abu Hanifa. Wa Hizbul Mutashayyi'in. Yet, we still have the troops of Shia. Wala shakka anna ta'lima kana wahidan. The promised Messiah emphasized that there is no doubt that the sources of Islamic Sharia are actually universally accepted by all Muslims. ولكن اختلفت الأحزاب بعد ذلك. But these sects are mutually disagreeing after having learnt from the same sources. فترون كل حزب بما لديهم فرحين. And most certainly, you see each one of these sects making claims that they are the best, they are better than others. وكل فرقة بنى لمذهبه كلعة. Every adherent of these schools of thought have built a pit of superiority complex for themselves in the school of thought. ولا يريد أن يخرج منها. And they do not want to come out of it. وَلَوْ وَجَدَ أَحْسَنَ مِنْهَا سُورَةً. Even if they have found something better than it in beauty. وَكَانُوا لِعَمَاسِ إِخْوَانِهِمْ مُتَحَصِّنِينَ. They are battle ready to always wage war of aggression and persecution against their brothers because of ideological differences. فَأَرْسَلَنِي اللَّهُ لِأَسْتَخْلِصَ السِّيَاسِ. Allah has sent me as the Messiah of the age, لِأَسْتَخْلِصَ السِّيَاسِ, so that I may purify those ones who are still left with some iota of piety the more. وَأَسْتَدْنِي الْقَاسِي, so that I may draw nearer to the paths of truth those ones who are deliberately distancing themselves from the core of the pristine Islam. وَأُنْزِرَ الْعَاصِي, so that I may warn the erring ones. وَيَرْتَفِعَ الْإِخْتِلَافُ, and so that there may be no cause for further controversies. وَيَكُونَ الْقُرْآنُ مَلِكَ النَّوَاسِي وَقِبْلَةَ الدِّينِ, so that the Holy Quran should remain the magnum opus, the quintessential source of the pristine Islam that is only acceptable to Allah. That takes us back to the beginning of this discussion. I said ab initio that the principal problem bedeviling the Muslim community on a global scale is negligence of the teachings of the Holy Quran. Here the promised Messiah, the awaited Mahdi of the time, is saying that his mission is to bring the Muslims back to the Fawcett Origo, the magnum opus, the quintessential source of Islamic Sharia, that is the Holy Quran, in its absolute form, undiluted, inimitable, unadulterated, together with the correct interpretations of the verses thereof. The Holy Quran, as revealed to the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in two different places, Allah has given us 10 pieces of warning to desist from disunity and Sikhism. Quran chapter 21 verses 93 to 94. Quran chapter 23 verses 53 to 54. In Quran chapter 21, Surah Al-Anbiya verses 93 to 94, Allah the Almighty says, Inna hadhihi ummatukum ummatan wahida. Most certainly, this religion of yours, this community of yours, is but one community. Wa ana rabbukum fa'budun. And I am indeed the only sovereign of the entire universe. So pay worship only to me. Fataqatta'u amrahum bainahum dhubra. But they have decided to deliberately disunite themselves into factions. Kullun ilayna raji'un. Every one of them shall return to us, and we will make final judgments. In Quran chapter 23, Surah Al-Mu'minun, verses 53 to 54, Allah the Almighty says, Wa inna hadhihi ummatukum ummatan wahida. And most certainly, this community of yours is but one community. Wa ana rabbukum fattakun. And I am indeed the possessor of sovereignty in the entire universe. Fataqatta'u amrahum bainahum dhubra. But they have deliberately disunited themselves into opposing camps and factions. Kullu hizbin bima ladayhim farihun. Every sect is vaingloriously bragging that we are on the straight path. These verses of the Holy Quran are clear pieces of warning to the Islamic Ummah not to ever toe the path of dissension, disunity, Sikhism, and sectarian enmity. But unfortunately, we are neck deep into this mess. Another internal challenge that is bedeviling the Islamic Ummah is poverty and back-breaking impoverishment. The case of the Muslim Ummah is like the case of that proverbial child living in want in the midst of plenty. Allah the Almighty has blessed the Muslim world with vital human and material resources. We have very powerful Muslim countries that are nuclear powers. You talk of Iran, you talk of Turkey, you talk of Pakistan. We have stupendously rich Islamic nations. You talk of Oman, you talk of Brunei, you talk of Kuwait, you talk of Qatar, you talk of Saudi Arabia. We have scientifically advanced Islamic countries. You talk of Indonesia, you talk of Malaysia, that have now become modern bedrocks of intellectualism. So many of our lecturers in Nigeria run to Malaysia for their doctorate. I wouldn't know if it is peculiar to the University of Ilorin alone. The Better University where I represent. Pardon my pardon my audacity. I can only represent my constituency in the academia. I am a product of the University of Ilorin, and we say we are better by far. Alhamdulillah. So many of our lecturers, they run to Malaysia for their doctoral postgraduate programs. And they come back after 2-3 years because the system there is fast, efficient, unbreakable. There cannot be a protracted ASU strike. That the president will come out after 6 months and say, I have just been aware that lecturers have been on strike for 6 months. I can assure you that we are fixing it immediately. And the thing will not be fixed until after 2 years. There are no things like that there. That is just by the way. Unfortunately, these resources have actually remained unharnessed. The political prowess that some Islamic countries can actually wiggle the relatively higher economic and material prowess that some Islamic countries can actually bring to the table for a more prosperous Islamic ummah, and the scientific compliance, the technological advancement, all these have been left unharnessed. You will agree with me that a star-studded team without a teamwork will always fail. The case of the Muslim Ummah is just like that of a star-studded team. The striker is a prolific scholar. The wingers are stallion horses, proverbially. They run more than Trojan horses. The defenders are formidable. The midfielders are mercurial. Yet they do not have a teamwork, no cohesion. They can never win anything substantial in the game of football. Why? Because no single team can stand on its feet without teamwork. Unfortunately, we have forces, political forces, material prowess, scientific compliance, technological advancement, but because of the sectarian enmity, these things are not harnessed. And that is why we are always in the wood. Look at the sorry case of our brothers in Palestine. Look at the pitiable state of our brothers in Burma, in Myanmar. Look at the affliction meted out to the Muslims of Sri Lanka and some parts of India. Just to mention but few. This untold hardship our Muslim brothers are suffering there is as a result of our collective failure to harness our God-given potentials. In the midst of all this confusion, the question on the mind, troubling every discerning mind, is where lies the headway? What is the missing link? Why are we in the woods? The simple answer is the fact that there is no uniting force. There is no universally accepted pilot administering the affairs of the Muslim world on a global level. Is the chief reasons why we have this crisis battling the Muslims. Imagine a case wherein celebrated Islamic scholars will pass away and some Muslim scholars will go to town painting it red in wild celebration, rejoicing at the death of a celebrated Islamic scholar. It has happened not once, not twice. When the author of Al-Fiqh al-Madhaib al-Arba, when he passed away, Salafi scholars were rejoicing on social media handles. Al-Imam Yusuf Qaradawi, when he passed away, because of the fact that he was not a fundamentalist, he was a realist. He would always x-ray issues on the weight of evidence and empirical analysis, not on hook, line and sinker classroom knowledge, as would the Salafi brothers. They made an enemy out of him and they rejoiced at his death. It happened on an international level. It happens on a local, in local settings. Our brothers from Ilorin will recall the tragic death of a celebrated sheikh who belonged to the Sufi order, who drowned coming back from a public lecture at Niger State. When he died, Salafi scholars were uploading, Alhamdulillah, one of the enemies of Islam drowned yesterday. That is to tell you the degree of that sectarian enmity. There are also external challenges. If you want to know that poverty is akin to Islam, go to our mosques on Friday. You see so many brands of machines. This is not actually meant to ridicule Islam, but it is to state the fact in a naked manner. You see a lot of cycles that we fondly call Okada. It is in states where we have a vast majority of Muslims that a democratically elected governor will come on air to declare that he actually aimed at eradicating poverty by giving out wooden boxes to 5,000 youths to enable them to mend shoes. A democratically elected governor in a Muslim populous state is rejoicing publicly on national TV that he empowered Muslim youth with what? With wooden boxes to mend shoes. This is the direct end result of the absence of the institution of zakat. We cannot have a vibrant Islamic world without a vibrant structure that will mobilize for zakat payment and even distribution to deserving Muslims. Because of the fact that zakat has crumbled within the Islamic world on a universal level, we have acute poverty, excruciating impoverishment, bedeviling a whole lot of Muslims. For crying out loud, we have 2 billion Muslims on the surface of the earth. We cannot boast of 10 million millionaires. That was not the case during the time of the Holy Prophet Muhammad. It is on record, stated by classical scholars of Islamic history, that at a point in time, the zakat was not given to the Muslims. It was given to the Zimmis, to the Mawalis, to the non-Muslims confederates who were under the Islamic government. During the reign of Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anhu, the Muslims became wealthy that no Muslim was receiving zakat again. Of course, some Islamic scholars opine that that was the beginning of so many problems in Islam. That is an argument to be flogged by scholars on another table, not here. We are not in an academic environment. This is meant to be a public lecture, so I will not flog that here. We have external challenges that are very grave, that are very disastrous to the collective nucleus of the Muslim community on a global level. The first one is Globalization. Globalization is indeed a curse for the Muslims. There are so many Western ideologies being daily interpolated into the pure teachings of Islam. There are a lot of Western influence in the socio-cultural and socio-political inclinations of Muslims. Today, Saudi Arabia is fast becoming a liberal state. The truth of the matter, Sheikh Adam Al-Ilori, one of the most renowned scholars in the last century in the annals of Islamic existentialism in West Africa, in his book Al-Islamu wa Taqalidul Jahiliyyah, he says that this thing is not globalization. It says innahu laysa bil awlama. He said this is not globalization. He says it is birtana awil amroka bal huwa al birtana awil amroka. It is Britanization. Permit me to use that word, or Americanization. They import Western values into the core of your moral and spiritual inclinations. You begin to think, you begin to reason, you begin to adopt, you begin to imbibe their self-inflicted craziness in the name of modernization. Today, ladies now have the liberty to don skimpy skirts, bikinis, and shake their God-given, backside at artificial beaches created in cities outside Mecca and Medina. In Daman, in Yalamlam, in Riyadh, in Rabada, and so many other cities. Saudi Arabian ladies now wear bikinis. And some people will say we are not yet in the end time. In fact, the end time is over. Now they are even envisaging that in the no distant future, probably in the year 2024, that we are currently in the first quarter, or even next year 2025, we will have a beauty pageant to determine the most beautiful lady in Saudi Arabia. They now have casinos where scholars, even with their beards and with their turbans and heavy beards, play cards in the name of what? Modernization. And that is not enough. They are still planning for a vision 2030. Who knows what lies in wait as rude shocks for the Muslim Ummah coming from the cradle of Islam. Globalization is fast becoming the order of the day in so many Islamic countries, and it is affecting the spirituality, the morality of Muslims. Today, virtually all the people of the world cannot do without their cell phones, and these cell phones have been programmed to be naturally very distractive. The first thing you do when you wake up, when you are still in your thermal moments, when you are expected to have a heart-to-heart conversation with your maker, is your phone. You begin to check for messages you missed last night before the law of nature overpowered your being. And the last thing you do every day is to also check for the daily trending issues on social media platforms. In fact, in so many homes, this thing has taken over. The father is pressing his, the mother working on a computer, backlog of assignment from the office, and the children playing games on their smartphones. Very recently, we had the sickling case of a boy who came from Lagos to one of the northern states here. I will not mention the state, and within 2 weeks impregnated two SS2 one SS2 and SS3 student. And when he was asked, he said he used to watch porn movies on his mobile phone. These are some of the effects of globalization. Another problem bedeviling the Muslim world is terrorism. It is, of course, not an internal challenge, it is external. It was externally created to internally eat deep into the fabrics of the core of Muslim values. I am not making this up. The Secretary of State to the United States government during the time of George Bush said it emphatically that they were the ones who created the Mujahideen. Hillary Clinton said they were the ones who created the Mujahideen, and they did so to fight the USSR mutineers who were actually hell-bent on bringing down the socio-political and economic ascendancy of the Western world. So for them to be decimated, the Western world had to train Mujahideen who were not afraid of death to actually take the war to their doors. And when they were through with them, they discarded them. But those ones were not finished with the United States. So they formed terror groups and started terrorizing the world. So terrorism is not a brainchild of Islam. It is rather a deliberate attempt by the Western world to decapacitate the Muslims internally, unsuspectedly. And they have largely been successful. Unfortunately, we have allowed that to fester. And today, there is virtually no Islamic country without a terrifying terror group. In Nigeria, we have a whole lot of them. In Afghanistan, they have even taken over. 2 years ago, when they took over, the Minister of Education was addressing people, and he had 5 guns. 5 guns surrounding him. So if it was the Minister of Defense, how many guns would he have put on his neck? If the Minister of Education can have 5 guns on his neck, these are not den guns, so they are not your regular guns. Pump action. 5 hanging on the neck of the Minister of Education. If it was the Minister of Defense, probably he would have taken interballistic missiles and be parading it all around. That is the sorry state we have found ourselves. Now, where lies the headway? What is the missing link? Why do we have this problem? It is simple. Until and unless the efforts of concerted Muslim scholars all around the world yield the desired result to politically implant a politically orchestrated Muslim king in the position of a pseudo Khalifa to oversee the affairs of the global Muslim community. If this cynical attempt keeps on failing as it has been failing and will continue to fail, we continue to live in the woods. You cannot implant a spiritual order that is meant to preserve the pristine teachings of Islam. It is Allah who ordains that the institution must surface. It is not the other way around. Every year, the Rabita to Alam al-Islami have always met, and they will continue to meet, to implant an Arab king to lord over the Muslims in form of a Khalifa. But the attempts have been met with utter rebuttal from all the vistas of the Muslim sects. And that will be the fate of such a cynical attempt. Because Allah the Almighty says in the Holy Quran chapter 24 verse 56, وَعَنْدَ اللَّهُ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا مِنْكُمْ وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. Allah has promised those ones among you who believe firmly in Allah and do good works, la yastakhlifannahum fil ard, that it shall most certainly establish for them a spiritual successorship on the face of the earth. Kama stakhlafa alladhina min qablihim. This practice is not alienated from the already established practice of Allah. He has done it in the past. He will continue to do it. وَلَا يُمَكِّنَنَّ لَهُمْ دِينَهُمُ الَّذِي ارْتَضَىٰ لَهُمْ. And he shall surely make firm for them the religion of Islam which he has chosen for them. وَلَا يُبَدِّلَنَّهُمْ مِنْ بَعْدِ خَوْفِهِمْ أَمْنًا. If that form of successorship comes into play, it shall translate their erstwhile fear into peace and security. يَعْبُدُونَنِي لَا يُشْرِكُونَ بِي شَيْئًا. They will worship me in truth and will not associate not with me. وَمَنْ كَفَرَ بَعْدَ ذَلِكَ. Anybody who decides to show ingratitude at that moment, فَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْفَاسِقُونَ. These ones will be one of the disobedient ones. In truth to his promise, Allah raised the Messiah of the time, Allah Muhammad alayhi salam. He says, Inni ana al-maw'udu wal-muslihu alladhi bihi tumla anna al-ardu adlan wa tusmiru. He says, I am that appointed one and the reformer who has been destined to be sent to fill the earth with peace, and so that the Muslim world will collectively enjoy the fruits of the God-given potentials Allah has blessed them with unilaterally and collectively. And this utopian task has always been carried out by his successors. Today, by Allah's grace and mercy, we have Hazrat Mirza Masroor Ahmad Ahadahullah Ta'ala bin Nasr al-Aziz as the fifth divinely appointed successor of the promised Messiah. I make bold to claim that this should be replicated by any sect in Islam. During the last Ramadan, on our radio programs in Ilorin, I threw a challenge. I am throwing it now in Abuja. Do say, if there is any Islamic community who can boast of a globally accepted Khalifa and that is under the precepts of prophethood as promised by the Holy Prophet Muhammad, they should come out. Such a person will win an accumulated number of gifts from the promised Messiah. All those 10,000 rupees, 10,000 will now gather them, they will give it to him. But they will never come out to accept this challenge, because even on their street, the Salafis are not friends. On their street, the Ahlul Tariqah are not friends. Not on a global level now. Let us talk about the local communities. If I were to be a Salafi scholar, and the Sheikh Noah Salam is a Salafi scholar, whenever we disagree on a matter, we will mutually embalm our foreheads mutually with the epithet of kufru. I will call him a kafir, he will call me a kafir. That's what they do. They even call themselves kafir on trivial issues as drinking pap with spoon or directly with your tongue. Some of them will say when you drink pap with spoon, you are doing bid'ah. And when they do iqamatul hujjah, when they tell you, no, the Prophet did not use spoon. He actually drank whatever he drank with his mouth, directly, no spoon. And you are refusing adamantly. You become a kafir. When you shave your beard, you become a kafir. Kufru is actually very free. They distribute it freely. That's what they do. That is not the version of Islam that will give us peace in exchange of fear. No. That is not the version of Islam that will give us, that will solidify our faith. No. That is not the version of Islam that will bring back the good old days of the time of the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his companions. And that is the mission of the promised Messiah alayhi salatu wasalam, to bring Muslim back to the pristine Islam. You cannot attain peace if there is no peace within the Muslims. For crying out loud, the religion of Islam prides itself on the lips of all Muslims as a religion of peace. Now let me ask, where is the peace if I must kill an apostate? Where is the peace if I must kill the one who blasphemes the prophet? Where is the peace if I must stone an adulterer to death, not minding the fact that he has repented or not? Where is the peace if I must hate my non-Muslim neighbors on account of their not being Muslims? There can never be peace in the midst of fundamentalism and dogmatism. There can only be peace in the true version of Islam, which is being reenacted anew by the advent of the promised Messiah alayhi salatu wasalam, and his successors who are divinely inspired. The Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in Muslim Ahmad Ambali, also in Mishkatul Masabi, has given us a reassurance that this second manifestation will never be taken away to the day of resurrection. He says, "Summa takunu al-khilafatu ala minhaji nubuwati summa sakata." Then Khilafat will resurface, it will resurge on the precepts of prophethood, then it kept mute. This silence has a meaning, and it means that this is meant to be perpetual. La fisoma laha. It knows no breaking. It shall not be taken away up until the day of resurrection. So brothers in Islam, the missing link in the Muslim Ummah is a universally accepted institution of Khilafat. Without that, the Muslims will continue to live perpetually in utter confusion, pandemonium, disarray, disunity, and if care is not taken, self-destruction. Let me leave you with the words of the Khalifa, Azamisa Masroor Ahmad, Adallah Ta'ala bin Nasir Aziz. He says that all powers in the world combined cannot stop the progress of Khilafat to Ahmadiyya, because it is a seed planted by Allah himself, and he waters it, and it will nourish and blossom such that all humans across all races of the world will eat from the fruit thereof on the same table. That is the mission of Islam al-Ahmadiyya, and that's why we say Muhabbat sabke liye nafrat kisi se nahi, al-hubbu lil jami wala karahiya. Love for all, hatred for none. At the end, I would like to leave you with the glorious words of Hazrat Isa alayhi salam, wherein he says, there are still so many things that I wish to say unto you, but you cannot, you will not have the chance to listen to them now. أقول قولي هذا أستغفر لي ولكم جميعا والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.